look at education loan similarly as a retail loan. You cannot look at them as somebody taking a personal loan and looking to repay that personal loan out of the current balance sheet strength of that individual, if I may say so, of that individual or probably of the family. You have to look at not just the current balance sheet, but you have to sort of look at what that balance sheet is going to become after they do their education. You have to take that take that future ROI into account.
Hey Victor, thanks for agreeing to do this. Look forward to the chat.
Aviral, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Mazin.
So let's start with our intro question. What's one truth that you believe in which very few people agree with you on?
So I think for us, it's a very simple premise. When we started Propelled, we realized that because of high NPAs, the majority of the lending ecosystem looks at lending into the education segment quite negatively. There's a skeptical lens into lending into the education segment. Um, when we when we started looking into it, we realized that probably the lens is a little wrong. You cannot look at education loan similarly as a retail loan. You cannot look at them as somebody taking a personal loan and looking to repay that personal loan out of the current balance sheet strength of that individual, if I may say so, of that individual or probably of the family. You have to look at not just the current balance sheet, but you have to sort of look at what that balance sheet is going to become after they do their education. You have to take that take that future ROI into account. You have to take that, when a student is getting into an educational degree, there is an expectation of an ROI out of it. That ROI might be tangible, it might be intangible, it might sort of accrue to that person in the student in 6 months, 1 year, or it could take some time, but that has to be sort of taken into account if you want to look at education, lending into education per se. That's something we believe, that's been our core thesis, and we feel that that's played out really well as well. During COVID times, we have had very low NPAs. Our NPA numbers are nowhere close to what the sort of like the public sector banks sort of quote with respect to their education lending NPA numbers. So that's a truth we feel has worked out really well for us, and that's what we feel as
I understand. Can you talk us through early days for yourself? Any inspirations for starting up? What were your early career decisions? How did you end up here? There were obviously a few startups that you tried before Propelled. If you can talk through that journey.
well. So, Aviral, it was um, after my engineering, I went on to do an MBA. It was more of running away to do an MBA in sort of like a fashion of joining a rat race instead of a really, I would say, a thought out decision. I'm guessing most of my decisions have been in that way, and I'm not sort of ashamed of saying it. After an MBA, again, I think it was a rat race of trying to get to the best placement that was offered in the campus instead of sort of looking inwards to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. But I think after getting into a job is when that realization started dawning, that probably I am not utilizing the creative potential that I had in my job, and that's where I started looking out for which could be potential avenues where I could sort of be utilizing myself, sort of getting a much more intellectually stimulating experience as well. And that's when me and my co-founder Brijesh, we used to spend a lot of evenings just chatting around what should we do, and we started a bunch of side hustles. I would say I met a gentleman called Mr. Farid Ehsan. He's the founder of ShareChat. Interestingly, he was my intern at Deutsche Bank, where I was working. And that guy, Farid's worldview really sort of blew me away. at a point where all we were trying to do was to impress our bosses. At an internship, sort of presentation meeting, he used to present his startup idea instead of what he was working at the bank, and sort of look for getting an angel round. And I used to be, I used to be a mentor, and I used to be sort of astounded by the guts of this guy. And as we know how his career has sort of panned out. He did a bunch of startups as well. So I think that was one moment for me. That was that pushing point where I felt that, a lot of after a lot of discussions with Fareed as well, where I felt that this is something that I could do. And yes, I quickly took a plunge. It was it was sort of taking a plunge more than taking a, sort of evaluating. I see a lot of entrepreneurs evaluating 4 5 ideas, and looking to see what they can do and build a comfort zone and drop there. As in, my thesis always was, I am going to put myself into a, not so comfort zone, and I'm going to look to swim from there. And that's what I did. The early startups, of course, didn't work out. I did about 3 startups before I did Propelled, and of course, there were stepping stones in each one of them. There were a lot of learning milestones that we got. The first startup that I did, we realized how to sort of get some amount of revenue, and things didn't work out there for various reasons as well. You know, but then the second startup that I did, of pristine of StockUpp in the hyperlocal grocery space, that was out of Mumbai. Uh, in at StockUp, we realized that I got we got that confidence. Me and Brijesh had also joined me. We got that confidence that we could actually scale a business without a lot of investment. That we are probably great at scaling something without having a lot of money and actually competing with larger players as well. But that's when we learned the importance of something called unit economics. That while we are scaling, and in a hyper local grocery business, when we do not have the unit economics working for us, we really need very large amounts of funding. Otherwise, the business does not really make sense. That was a very difficult decision to close down, StockUpp, the hyper
This
local.
was which time frame? What year was this? Did
So
you?
I quit my job in 2014. 2014 to 15, I did an ed tech where we were teaching kids about astronomy. It was a company called Astroworks. It didn't work out for various reasons. From 15 to 16, we did StockUp, which was that hyper local grocery company. That's where Brijesh, my co-founder, had also quit his job to sort of work with me. Brijesh is currently my co-founder at Propelled as well. So it was our journey. We had, just to give you a sense, we were working out of Powai and Chandivali. We were operating out of Powai and Chandivali. We were doing about, we were not funded. We were doing about 50 orders in a day, and we were competing with the likes of Grofers and the rest at that point of time. That was like the heights of the hyper local boom. I have delivered. A lot of those orders were delivered by by me as well. I remember an incident where I was soaking wet, and I went with a bag of grocery in front of a woman's house, and we were doing about 50 orders, and that's when I realized that we are losing out about 300 400 rupees per order. I'm soaking it wet. What the hell am I doing in my life? We came back. We had a difficult chat. uh, we spent some time at Sunny's in front of IIT Bombay. And then, we thought that, we have to get our, we have to do something which makes a lot more unit economic sense. To do that, we started Pristine Cut, which was a customized apparel brand. And we moved to Delhi. We needed a change of environment as well. We were a little tired, and we wanted to sort of. And Beephu, our third co-founder at Propel, he was at Delhi. All three of us are school friends. We have been very close all through the journey. And Beephu being at Delhi meant that he would take care of all of our expenses. So when we moved to Delhi and we started Pristine Cut, we used to stay at his couch, and all of our food, all of our eating out, everything used to be spent
Yes.
by him. Sorry, Mazen. Yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, that's fascinating. So 2 startups, 2 years. Now you moved to Delhi for this third one. Explain the thought process to us. Like, what are you
Yes.
thinking at this point? I mean, I'm sure the thought must have crossed your mind. Can I go back and do this corporate thing again? Do I need to make money, or no, not at all?
Absolutely, absolutely, Mazen. As in, I think. The moment when we closed out that hyperlocal grocery startup, for me there was 2 years down, right? And I've
Yeah.
seen a bunch of, on social media you see a lot of friends who are doing investment banking, doing really well, taking Euro trips, and
Right.
you're
Right.
just here staying at a friend's place, and it's really difficult mentally, and um, uh, you know it feels like nobody's with you. And that was probably the most difficult period of time for us, and that's where Bibu helped a lot. That change of environment, going to Delhi, that environment was really different, as in there were a lot of friends at Delhi, and there was a lot of supporting structure there. And yes, the we had thoughts of going back to corporate, but we also had that confidence, we had built that confidence that we could scale a certain business. So with
Right.
that confidence, when we moved to Delhi, our whole thought was, let's build something where we can see money. uh, af- Within 1 year of moving to Delhi, when we started Pristine Cut, we actually hit the ground running, and we did about, you wouldn't believe it, but we did about 60 lakh worth of revenues in about 6-8 months of moving to Delhi in Pristine Cut, and 50% of that were probably profits. So that was a very wild journey.
But a shift in the way that you thought about businesses, right? I mean, you're thinking about a business from the start now, not just getting people to use a product that you're making.
Absolutely, yes, you're right. As in, we probably overcompensated towards something which makes us a lot more money, instead of thinking of it from a product point of view. And that was the intent, as in the there was a conscious decision from our end that right now our objective is to give us some runway, give ourselves personally some runway, so that we have that mental bandwidth to start thinking about what next. uh, so Pristine Cut was that journey was really great. But then what happened at Propelled was Bibhu had that idea, because we were in that environment where although Bibhu was in a corporate job, he was bound to be influenced by this sort of like the startup energy bit that me and Brijesh had in the house. So he had this idea about Propelled, although the idea was quite different. It was about education funding, but it was about the Milton Friedman paper. It was about building an equity-linked sort of product into for a student's education. And to help Bibhu out, because he was in a corporate job, he didn't have the bandwidth. We started off, me and Vijesh, we started off the idea of Propelled with just helping out Bibhu, nothing else. And we used to make introductions to between Bibhu and, let's say, other banks, and sort of go with him to see how the response would be. Uh, in that process, what happened was we started slowly moving into the idea of Propelled as compared to Pristine Cut. And there was an accelerator program that was starting in India. It was a accelerator called Startup Bootcamp, fintech accelerator. They were quite well known in Europe. They asked for applications. We applied. They asked us to come to Mumbai. We met dozens of bankers, like very senior bankers. We had never met such sort of senior guys. Everybody seemed very positive about this idea. And finally, at the end of that workshop, the accelerator asked us to pursue this idea, and they would give us very small, some 10-15 lakhs worth of sort of what do you call that, funds, and take a minimal equity and help us out uh, in building out the product of Propelled. So that's what got us thinking. We all three of us sat down. We sort of mutually decided that we should ideally be pursuing Propelled, although Pristine Cut was close to heart. But we always felt that we had somewhere along that line, because we had gone through that StockUpp phase, Astroworks and StockUpp phase, which didn't work out really well. At Pristine Cut, we were sort of overcompensating on making money and unit economics, but that was not the real intent from the very beginning. The real intent was to build a very large scalable business which can actually impact a lot of people as well, and which does not exist currently in the market. A company like a Pristine Cut, we could have done it with far lesser bandwidth than needing our 100% on that. And Bibu also felt that if both of us, me and Brijesh, can also come in, he would feel a lot more comfortable leaving his job, and all three of us could sort of pursue that together. that's how we took that jump. We also decided that we can't be doing this Propelled and doing Pristine Cut, think of it as sort of like a cash cow. We were against that idea, because when things go bad, the belief was that when things go back, if you have a safety net, you'll try to sort of move towards that safety net. It's just human psyche, you can't help it. So again, wantonly, we wanted to make ourselves uncomfortable, and we went into Propelled together, closed down Pristine Cut, went to Propelled, Vivo quit his job, and that's how we sort of started.
No, helpful. Can you explain the concept though? It's a fascinating concept that we've seen in play, possibly in sports, in some sense, like securitizing the earnings of a person. But can you talk about what this was conceptually and how you were thinking of it?
So we're not pursuing that now. It's one of our ideas. We want to do that
Of
in the
course,
future.
I know. I mean,
Uh,
then.
so the core tenet of the paper from Milton Friedman, I can sort of send that to you after our call, was that education is not a private investment. It should be a public investment. Makes sense because when somebody gets educated, it's not just that particular guy actually benefits out of it. The entire society. There's a lot more indirect correlation with the society as a whole and how that society gets sort of uplifted. And the best way of sort of looking at education, and the best way to make sure that the public, the students, the investor, and the institutes are on the same page, and everybody has skin in the game with respect to quality education and actually getting ROI out of it, is to be able to link them through an equity linked product. uh, and if somebody does not, if let's say, think of the case of a student who does not get a value out of a course, he should not be paying back to the society or to the investor, because he did not get a value out of the course. Whereas somebody got an exponential value, they should be paying back exponentially. Difficult concept to sort of practically build out. A lot of people had tried it in the US as well. In the States, there was a very famous example is in the Purdue University, called a backer boiler program, which didn't really work out. There are nuances to it. Negative the elements of negative selection are one major challenge to it, and the overall concept of uh, having equity in a human being per se. These are major challenges. The regulatory hurdles are immense as well, because lending is a highly regulated environment. What we realized during the course of pursuing this product, though, is that this is too high funda. But even from a traditional sense as well, even just a normal education loan, plain vanilla education loan, debt financing product, for a majority of people who really want to pursue education, is also not easily available. The penetration levels of education loan in India are hardly about 2 to 3% level. The majority of penetration is concentrated at your top 100 engineering or your top 100 MBA colleges, but that's about it. Apart from that, education is not just that. uh, you have more than a crore of students who take a higher education degree, right? As in, it could be anything from a BA, BCom, BBA, BTech. Your engineering and MBA are hardly about 10 lakh of that, about 10%. And then you have your schools, and then you have your coaching centers, people preparing for coaching. You have people preparing for an ITI, skill courses, being a nurse. That's massive. But we are only focusing on a very small part of it. What we also realize is that the debt form of investment, you can look at lending and investment are two sides of the same coin, right? As in, you can look at debt side of investment when the cash flows are sort of are quite regular, as in you can fairly predictably fairly predict the cash flows of an individual. Where it works, where the equity product will work really well, is when the prediction of the cash flows is volatile. As you mentioned, sports. It's a fairly well-known concept in basketball in the US, or let's say in soccer in South American countries. where people take equity because the expectation of cash flows are very volatile. So we still sort of figuring out where it can fit well, and that's a dream of us wanting to build those sort of products as well. But that was the starting point, starting thought for us.
And just to build on that starting thought, what were some of the inefficiencies that you saw in the existing banking system that made it impossible for them to kind of penetrate beyond these top colleges?
Look, there are, of course, the way my personal opinion on this is, there are two major inefficiencies that I look at. One is, ticket sizes. Now, of course, the, you know, when you're looking at education in itself, right, is more than just your higher education degree. Higher education degree is the most expensive, or maybe going abroad to study. That's again a part of higher education, but that's a slightly different market. But education is a lot more than that. There are a lot more students who are taking who are going into a school, or who are doing coaching, or who are doing a sort of like a, there, or who are doing an ITI course or a skilling course. That's Bharat. And if you want to impact a lot more people, you have to be able to sort of service smaller ticket size loans. And that does not make unit economic sense from a brick and mortar structure versus a sort of like a fully digital sort of like a setup. That's one. And secondly, the idea of risk and the idea of risk assessment. What's a risk? How do you sort of how do you sort of look at risk, and how do you sort of assess risk? I think I pointed to that a little bit earlier as well. You cannot look at, you have to be a lot more sector focused. You have to be a lot more nuanced. You cannot look at the balance sheet strength or the capacity of the father or the student, and that's it. You have to look at the student's capability. You have to look at what course he's going into, and you have to sort of make a correlation and try to figure out what benefits he could potentially get into it. And you have to, and the one of the key parts of the puzzle which moves into this is that 90% of India is actually not highly underwritable. You cannot really assess their income from just traditional documentations. Hardly 10% of India is salaried, and rest of 80-90% of India is self-employed. And at a self-employed individual level, a lot of people get cash salaries. You don't really transact in bank accounts. There, it's not very clear with respect to documentation. So you have to rely on a lot more alternate parameters, education related parameters, motivation related parameters, to be able to sort of assess them. That's second. The third piece that I would want to speak about is that, look, I feel these are inefficiencies, but if there is a focused player, it's not like these inefficiencies cannot be sort of solved for. Uh, and it makes sense for a bank to not focus on this particular segment, because it's just a question of, if they have the lowest cost of funds, what's their, from a bank's point of view, what is their advantage, and what is their best product that they can give out, right? And if they have 5 products to choose from, they can, if there are 2-3 products which are much better for them, they would ideally want to focus on that. It's as simple as that. Being a bank and being, having access to CASA accounts at a 5% sort of 6% sort of level max, right? Your core capability is about drawing, being able to have access to very large amounts of money, cost of funds. Your core capability is not tech. Your core capability is not risk assessment at that piece. So when you have that, it's for you, your for your deployment, it just absolutely makes sense that you look out for those segments where there is a very high market with low risk, right? And for, as a bank, the first biggest segment is of course home loan there, right? Everybody wants a home. It's a absolutely huge market. There are higher ticket sizes. It's a secured product. The risks are as low as it could get. And then your SME loans, and loans to your HNIs, those are of course your products that you focus on. Why would you want to focus on this as well? So that's broadly what we bring to the table.
And so how do you guys think about that assessment? Can you walk us through what you guys do conceptually, and how do you evaluate that? I mean, because it's two things, right? Like you said, it's evaluating the particular program and the opportunities the person has, but also looking at that individual and how creditworthy they are when they don't have maybe documents you can rely on.
So Mazin, it's not a there's no single. What we've realized is there's no single silver bullet in this. There are two, three ways in which we sort of look at this. One is in terms of, as we said, in terms of risk assessment. We do not look at risk assessing just at individual. It's
Yes.
about risk assessing a project.
Okay.
The meaning of a project is that student, that particular student, with his particular parent's sort of balance sheet, and that particular student with his particular academic degree,
We put everything
taking a
together.
course at that particular institute. Uh, yeah, and that is the entire project in itself. That's how we risk assess. The other way in which we sort of work around the risk structure is not through assessment, is through financial structuring. So
Okay.
what we do is, if let's say the you know if let's say the risk is as an in sort of like, if I have to sort of do it in a much more simplistic term, if let's say the risk is this much, or risk
Okay.
is 100 units
Yeah.
for us, right?
Okay.
Is there any financial structure which can make that risk 50 for us, 50 units? Let that unit be anything, right? So for
Mhm.
that, let's say if an institute within that particular project, if that institute is willing to take part in some part of the risk
Got
through
it.
a financial structuring,
Solution.
right? That makes our, you know, all with the similar risk assessment, with a smaller risk, although the overall gross risk of the project is high, the net risk for us as Propelled or as our lenders becomes smaller. That allows us to be able to get the lending access to a lot more individuals. As an example,
Makes sense.
a way in which an institute can sort of partake in that risk is by saying that, hey, you know what? I am going to guarantee placements. If I do not guarantee placements, I will make sure your money is back. Or let's
Yeah.
say the institute saying that I will support you, with, let's say, some amount of defaults. We split those defaults in some way.
Yeah.
They support us financially from that point of view. So that's how we sort of look at this.
That's fascinating. I mean, that's almost like that's your unfair advantage, right? That's the way that you lower your risk and you get um, you get the unit economics to make sense when banks cannot do it. Yeah, I know. Love that example.
It's not a very new idea though. We are just applying it now. But the entire project financing construct, is built on this. When you're looking at financing, let's say a hydroelectric project, or let's say what do you call that? A road project or anything like that. You're not just assessing the developer's balance sheet strength. You're also assessing the entire project as a whole, what it can sort of contribute. What we have just done is just use that approach in a retail sort of a way. And of course, the core thing remains that it can only be done in a particular segment which is ROI generating, and we believe education is that.
And any framework you use to isolate education? I know it was an idea that the three of you kind of stumbled on. How did you like build conviction that this is the category where financing will be required the most amongst all the other opportunities that you had? And if you can talk about the product in some sense, so how does it work? How do you acquire customers? How do you solve the supply side, which is the financing bit? I would love to understand that.
Yeah, sure, Aviral. So, for us to build conviction in education was actually very easy. So inherently, all three of us, all of our families, we've been like big believers in education. We come from a tier two city in India. You would, both of you guys would sort of correlate with how much education is sort of like a focus in Indian families. I can say that for at least my family and my co-founders' family, it was actually the focus was a lot more extreme with respect to education. Just to give you a few examples, I think for our families, I think education was the first expense, and then would be an expense on taking a trip or buying new clothes, or getting out to a restaurant. So it was easy to build conviction. Our what do you call that? When Bibhu brought in the idea of Propelled, by being sort of by having read that paper of Milton Friedman, that was also around education. And we have inherently believed that sort of like, if you can sort of solve for education, you can sort of solve for the larger problems in not just your country, in your society as a whole. if you have energy as a problem. You can solve for if you have a lot more educated, passionate people actually working on it. So that's sort of like a baseline problem. And yes, when we did a lot more research, as I said, when we met a lot of those very senior folks at a bank, when we did a lot of pitches, when we realized what banks do, their workings and all of that, that's when, and of course, a lot of primary research as well, that's when we started realizing that it's not a segment which has been focused on very deeply, and it's a segment which is a sort of like a green space. And there needs to be very new thinking in this. There needs to be differentiated products in this. That's when we sort of got in, and that conviction has sort of strengthened over the years as well when we started doing that.
And if you can talk about the product set as well, like we were earlier alluding to, what do you sell to a customer? How do you syndicate the capital required? And possibly related to this, how do you do better than banks, which also provide educational financing?
So think of our product as a two-sided marketplace. I wouldn't. I think a marketplace is probably a wrong term. It's more like a managed sort of like a managed pipeline of sorts. At one side, our idea is to uh, help institutes improve their access to students. So our financing products are built as sort of like a modular tool, and they help the institute sort of uh, put out their product a lot more with potential students. So let's say an institute called Mentors Academy. It's a institute out of Patna. They cater to a lot of students coming out of Bihar and UP for ITJ coaching. These are people. These are, think of these guys as probably the second tier. The first tier people always go to something like an Alan at Kota, Alan or Akash at Kota. The second tier people would go to something like Mentors. Now for them, a lot of people they're coming in, they would have questions about financing. It's going to be difficult for them. They do. So what we spoke about from a banking point of view, from a public sector point of view, is just the formal financing model. The informal financing model, it's that's not the only financing model that's present in the country. Your informal financing is a lot more rooted, and it's people do use that. When somebody has to come to Patna to get his student or his son or his daughter enrolled at a Mentors, it's not just a tuition fee, it's also about the living expenses for a couple of years. It's an expensive affair. You wouldn't, and it's getting more expensive year on year. If you remember, during the times that uh, if I remember correctly, during the time that I went to IIT, my fees was 30,000 per semester. Tuition fees were 30,000 per semester. I believe it's been at least tripled or quadrupled over the last 10 years. A student going to a quota, the expense, when I went to quota for my coaching, I think it was about 60,000 per year. Right now, it has probably almost tripled. So it's getting a lot more expensive year on year. Now, these guys, the farmers that are coming in, the self-employed individuals that are coming in from those areas, right? If they have to get there, they'll have to either resort to getting a gold loan, parking their gold, or selling off something, or selling off a cattle, and we have seen that firsthand as well, or resorting to taking money from the informal segment, which is at very very high interest rates. If And here the institute actually supports, because let's say it's in the institute's benefit as well to make sure that these students are getting access. If the students are able to get that same loan in a much more easier fashion, in with very in a very seamless process, without a lot of hassle, and at very minimal cost or at a zero cost, because the institute is sort of subsidizing the rate of the loan because it's in their benefit as well. They end up doing a lot more business. It's a win-win for everybody. So the core idea is about making sure that all the parties of the ecosystem are aligned towards on the same level. And yes, I'm. Let me come to the product. I digressed a little bit. Let me come to the product a little more, Aviral. So the idea is to build tools which the institute can use to help their students get access. So the students would come in. the institute guys, or let's say the institute counselors, would help the students go through a seamless loan journey. There's going to be an application flow, and then there's going to be the underwriting model is our the underwriting model takes care of that underwriting. And then we have a bunch of lenders on our other side, where we have agreed sort of underwriting models, and the loan model goes, and we make sure we facilitate that the movement of that loan journey through to our lending partners as well. And then the money sort of gets released, and then the entire loan servicing part, which is about after the student gets a loan, then the EMIs, the money coming in, that's again facilitated by us, but finally the money goes to the lenders directly. So it's sort of like a bunch of lenders at one side, it's like a bunch of institutes at the other side. Having an access of bunch of lenders also allows us as sort of like a platform to bring in access of a lot of capital. That's one of the core ways in which we can sort of win that ecosystem as well. If you have very limited access to capital, you won't be able to sort of actually build your access with the students as well. So that's how that product is built.
That's interesting. I mean, it's so you're not competing with banks at all. You're actually more working with them, and it's more a complementary product. So I was curious about metrics that you're looking at. Like, what kind of metrics are you tracking from a product perspective? How do you measure success? Since you have different participants, and it's a lot of different things to optimize for, right? What are your KPIs?
Do you mean, Mazin, do you mean matrices from a customer success point of view? Do you mean matrices from an, org point of view, org P&L point of view? If you can
Yeah,
just
like
clarify
from an
that question a
org point of view,
little
like
more.
what are your product metrics? How do you internally know that your product is doing well, right? Like I think with a lot of consumer products, it's straightforward. You look at engagement, daily active users, things like that. For a product like yours, it's obviously much more nuanced. So curious how you guys measure success.
So, Mazin, from a product point of view, of course, one of the most key metrics is our underwriting capability. Are we able to sort of underwrite? What's our approval rate at a particular institute, and what's our rejection rate? And given our sort of approval rate, we look at like true positives, false positives, the entire metrics of that. How many guys have we been able to sort of look at alternate data and been able to take a decision which has turned out really well, which is turned and the ones that have turned out wrong, and how do we sort of keep working on that sort of product. The other piece for us is how seamless is that journey. What's a tat behind the product, and what sort of the other third key metric for us is about penetration levels at an institute. That for us is how is a reflection of how useful do institutes find our product. If we are, let's say, at a 5% sort of like a penetration rate at an institute, we understand that we are not being terribly important to the institute. We do go back to the institute and figure out what's making that happen. Is there a are there different kind of students who are coming in? Is there a newer structure that could be thought out? And the objective there is not about skimming the surface and and sort of giving out loans to just the cream layer. The objective is to go deeper at that institute and to actually be useful. And of course, our number of institutes, and the engagement with our institute, the penetration from let's say an institute has 100 counselors. We also measure how many counselors or how many agents are actually using our product, and that's another penetration level for us. So these are 3 4 key matrices off the top of my head from a product point of view. From an org point of view, obviously, because we are the whole idea of lending is about giving out money and being about doing that profitably and having very low loss rates. For us, the key matrices there are about loan dispersals, is about assets under management, is about our NPA rates, and about our cost structures, our profitability, and so on. We've actually been profitable since the last couple of years.
Awesome. And so, what's the plan for the future? You've hit profitability. You've been running a ship, which I think in this new market is in better shape when access to capital has tried. What's your view on the future for you guys?
So look, there are everything is not hunky dory. There are major key challenges as well. One of the biggest challenges we have seen is, the you can't sort of take education segment as one particular beast. It has smaller sub beasts and sub challenges in their particular products as well. The way a schooling market, a student going into a school, that the way that particular dynamic sort of works out is very different from somebody getting into a coaching. The way somebody takes an the quality of a guy, the credit quality of a person who is looking to send his son or a daughter to a JE or an NET is very different from somebody who is sending his son or daughter to a NDA preparation or to a railways uh, uh, you know preparation or a banking PO sort of preparatory course. The way the entire higher education market operates is different as well. So we are still, we have still figured out some of these segments. Some of these segments are in a scaled up mode. Some of these segments, different segments are in different journeys. As I said, some of them we are in that scaling mode. We have figured out everything that has to be, most of the things that has to be figured to scale that business out. We are confident about scaling our business there. In some of the segments, we have figured out the nuances, and we are in that process of looking to scale up. In some of the segments, we've had early green shoots, and we are still trying to figure out the nuances. It has to be built in a customized shoe for that particular segment. We have realized that. That's one key idea. And the second idea is, of course, how to become a lot more relevant, how to keep working on our product to make that a lot more inclusive. Can we do a lot more in education if we have sort of looked at lending? Lending is not the be all. Can we look at helping out students in a much better way? There are a bunch of ideas that we have in the pipeline as well. Too early to sort of discuss that here. But uh, broadly, how do we enable that entire education ecosystem? And that's what the objective is.
Understand. No, awesome. And thank you for walking us through the journey and what you're building. Our final question is why we call this podcast Founders Unfiltered. What's one piece of unfiltered feedback you received in your career or as an entrepreneur that really changed the way you look at things? So one piece of advice.
Difficult question, Aviral. There are a bunch of things that come in my head, but if I have to sort of um, pick out one, is um, I think I've had this advice from a lot of good entrepreneurs who have become friends, and I've seen that work out really well as well. Practically. Um, you know, as an entrepreneur, when there is a very tricky sort of strategic decision to take, where a lot of people might be for it, where a lot of people might be against any decision which could, and this is a type of decision which could sort of take the path of a company in separate ways. Um, there are um, you know there are some there is a lot of information which we can probably not, as a human, it's very difficult to sort of make sense of, but it sort of contributes, and our experiences as an entrepreneur, which contribute towards what we call as our gut feel. And at some places, it's best to hear everybody from an open mind, and that's something that definitely has to be done. But when it comes to it, there is a certain weightage to the gut feeling of an entrepreneur, which should ideally be taken for a particular strategic direction of the company. And we have seen that work out, well. Or, as Ratan Tata says, it's not about, one right decision or a bad decision. It's about taking a decision and making it right.
Right.
That ends up happening. So,
Understand. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Victor. It was amazing speaking to you. Hope our listeners will take away a lot from this conversation.
thank you, Aviral. Thank you, Mazin, for having me. It was a real pleasure to sort of speak with you guys. Thank you.